Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This is Danelle, and today we're going to go over a lot of the news stories that broke over this past week. A lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get to it. As usual, let's go ahead and start with the cryptocurrency market update. Today, we see Bitcoin currently trading at $25,972. It is down 0.3% over the last 7 days, but as we'll discuss, Bitcoin actually had a little bit of a topsy-turvy week where it saw a nice little run up given the news regarding the Grayscale announcement and the litigation that they initiated with the SEC. We'll talk about that in one moment. So we'll go and look over the chart in a second. But as you can see, Bitcoin is now back to basically where it was a little over a week ago, where it was at around that $25,000 to $26,000 range. Ethereum, same thing. It is now trading at $1,637. And we have BNB, XRP, USD Coin, Cardano, Dogecoin, Solana, and Tron in the top 10. Solana seeing the worst of it over the last 7 days, down 6.52%, trading at 19.46 cents. So, if we look at the Bitcoin chart a little bit closer, just like we discussed last week, Bitcoin had been kind of ranging for a while, particularly since the run up earlier this year, and it's been in that $25,000 to $30,000 range. And as you can see here, early in August, we had even gotten up to about 30,000, close to it at 29,000, and then we had a dip down and we started kind of hanging out at around that $25,000 to $26,000 range. The Grayscale news came out on Tuesday, August 29th. You see here that Bitcoin had a nice little jump up. It came up at about 5 to 6%, I believe, maybe a little over 6% in the day for Tuesday, and then it came right on back by Thursday. So now we're back to that $25,000 to $26,000 range. So that's why, especially in this cryptocurrency market and just generally speaking, what's happening in the macroeconomic environment, it's very important that we keep posted and stay tuned to the news and what's going on, because particularly in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and their sensitivity to news and volatility, some news item can create a cratering effect or it can create a mooning effect. So you really have to kind of stay tuned with what's going on, not only in cryptocurrencies, but also in NFTs and Web3 as well, because any piece of news can cause a cryptocurrency or an NFT to go higher in value or go much lower in values. As we were talking about with relation to news and what happened to the Bitcoin price earlier this week, GBTC lawsuit, which was the lawsuit that was filed by Grayscale, they are one of the largest, actually the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin. They had filed a lawsuit in DC court against the SEC after the SEC had denied their request to have their Bitcoin trust converted to a Bitcoin spot ETF, which we've talked about also in other videos. And the spot ETF is something that is traded publicly on the stock exchange. We'll get to that in a moment as well. But Grayscale was one of the first. And as you can see here, this is the timeline. The SEC denied Grayscale's application on June 29th. And then the same day, Grayscale initiated litigation, filing a petition for review. Over a year later, received a ruling where the DC Circuit ruled in favor of Grayscale, saying that the SEC didn't give enough information that made sense as to why they were not allowing Grayscale to convert the trust to a ETF, because they had already allowed for Bitcoin futures contracts, which some consider to be a much riskier investment because it actually are contracts related to the price of asset, in this case Bitcoin, in the future, when a spot Bitcoin ETF relates to the price of Bitcoin at the moment. So if Bitcoin is trading at $25,000, the ETF is correlated directly to that. And if it trades to $30,000 the next day, it's directly correlated to that. It's not related to a particular date in the future. It goes by whatever the Bitcoin price is at that particular moment. So that is a key difference. And also the difference between the Bitcoin trust that Grayscale has is that it was a private placement. So you had to be an accredited investor in order to be able to invest into the Bitcoin trust. But now if they get it converted to an ETF, There's also a lot of other details related to the differences between the two, but basically it will then become a publicly traded fund that would list the ETF. So then you can go to Robinhood or Webull or Charles Schwab or Fidelity, E-Trade, whoever you use, you would be able to then buy and have exposure to Bitcoin using the ETF as opposed to buying Bitcoin outright and having to deal with public keys and things of that nature. And so a lot of people, particularly in institutional investors, are looking at having this type of investment product out in the market. So if we go to look at GBT right now, GBTC, if we look at the discount to premium, so currently it is still trading at a discount compared to the net asset value of what Bitcoin is currently trading at the moment. But if it does get converted to an ETF, as I mentioned, it's going to be directly correlated. So that discount is going to completely disappear. So those who got in earlier this year and traded, there was a discount of 45%, actually a little bit more than that. As you can see, the maximum discount was at 48.89%, so nearly 50% last year. And we had in the 46, 47 range, as you can see here, earlier in 2023. But as Bitcoin started to go up, this discount started to reduce. And then after we had the Grayscale news, it was trading at around 25% discount or so. And then it went up to, or I should say down to 19%, just under 20%. So we are seeing a trend of this discount starting to be less and less. So you can see here on Y charts, you can get a little bit of the history of the discount, and also Ethereum Trust, which I believe they will be seeking an ETF, an exchange traded fund for the Ethereum Trust as well at some point. But right now, obviously, you got to go with the first, and it's going to be Bitcoin. So now that they have that ruling, we shall find out what the SEC is going to do when they have to make a decision regarding converting this Bitcoin trust as well as the other ETF applications that are out there currently. And as I mentioned, we talked about the SEC applications in previous videos as well as in our IG post and on X. But here you can see that the SEC this week delayed their decision as to whether or not they're going to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF for 7 firms, including BlackRock, which is the largest asset manager in the world, Wisdom Tree, Invesco, Wise Origin, VanEck, Bitwise, and Valkyrie. And these applications were put in July, and so the SEC actually has upwards of nearly 6 months. They can push back the date up until nearly 6 months before they have to make a final decision. So we're looking at the beginning of January 24, where we have to have some kind of decision made by the SEC, but at least so far they've made this delay, which many expected in these spot Bitcoin ETF filings. A lot of it, I'm sure, having to do with some of this litigation that was filed against the SEC, and they wanted to see what those rulings were going to be, not only with Grayscale, but also with the SEC. And there's also one with Coinbase as well. So definitely a lot of eyes are staying peeled to what is going on with these ETF applications. And obviously we will continue to keep you posted as well as we learn a little bit more about what's happening there with the SEC. And speaking of the SEC, just to finish off this video before we go, we also wanted to mention that the SEC also won, in this case, a lawsuit against Impact Theory and their NFTs. I wouldn't say they necessarily won per se, but Impact Theory, as you can see here, agreed to a cease and desist order, finding that it violated registration provisions of the Securities Act of 1933, and it ordered it to pay a combined total of more than $6.1 million. So that's basically a fine that they have to pay. The order also establishes a fund to return monies to injured investors that paid to get in and purchase these NFTs. So they didn't deny or accept the fact that they did actually violate the securities laws, but they are going to go ahead and agree to the cease and desist, and they are going to pay a $6.1 million fine. So a lot of NFT projects are put on notice because there are some issues and concerns, and that's why it's so important that we get the clarity that we need from the legislation, from Congress, to find out what laws are going to be applied to cryptocurrencies. Do we need to completely correlate them with securities? In most cases, probably not. In some, sure, there may need to be certain rules and regulations that need to be followed when you're going to solicit investors for particular projects. And some projects, if they are completely decentralized, then that doesn't fall in the same category as a security. So there's still a lot to be learned when it comes to what cryptocurrencies are going to be, what NFTs are going to be, and they don't all fall in one bucket. So we're still waiting to get a little bit more information with regards to the laws. But as many of us know, the government is the last to act, generally speaking. So it's still going to be some time before we get some of the clarity that we need. And we'll just end on this note. X just received another money transmitter license, this time from the state of Rhode Island. And in order to be able to have transfers of money, including cryptocurrency, on the X platform, you're going to need these licenses, and they have one from Rhode Island. They also have it in these states as well. So it looks like that X is going to, at some point in time, allow for money transfers on the platform, whether it be potentially being able to tip creators on the platform, as well as being able to exchange money on the platform. Many have said, as including Elon Musk, is that he believes that X could be a huge player in the financial world. And so this is definitely a start in them trying to be able to create financial possibilities for those using the social media platform. So we spoke enough today. We just wanted to go through some of those bigger news stories currently out in the market right now. Definitely a lot to stay tuned. And we really appreciate you checking us out here at Networkchain. We're still growing, we're still small, but we really appreciate those who have been listening and checking us out every week. Thank you. We see you. We appreciate the views. Please make sure to hit the like on your way out. We greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, take care. We look forward to connecting with you on the network chain sometime soon. Bye bye.